I'm really glad that we started with the previous presentation because that made a really excellent foray into my topic here. So, hi everyone, my name is Chelsea Slack, and I am an assistant professor of communication and media studies at Southeastern Louisiana University. We are located on the North Shore of New Orleans in Hammond, Louisiana. It's like a balmy 84 degrees here today, so it hasn't gotten cold yet. And I'm actually originally from Arkansas, and actually still work for the University of Arkansas system myself as an adjunct. So, U of A people, woo pig. And I was really excited that the game got pushed back because of weather, because it was supposed to be during our time here today. Okay, so my topic is rethinking rigor when AI integration becomes graduate level pedagogy. So, first of all, I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off, and most of you hopefully already know this. The only people who don't know this at this point are the people who are actively in denial, which is that we've reached the tipping point. Pandora's box has been opened, and we've essentially reached critical mass to where not necessarily 100% of students are using AI in their work, but we're almost there. We've reached near universal usage by students. That's globally and in the US. So these rates are actually slightly lower globally than they are in the US. That may be kind of shocking to US audiences. We maybe think that AI may be something that's really used much more by like a, non-US audience. That's definitely not the case. The numbers are higher in the US. And so 90% have used AI on an assignment period or for schoolwork period in 2025, and that 88% have used AI on a test in 2025, and that is up from 53% in 2024. I personally think that the numbers, the stats, it took a minute between the technology and the speed of adoption rates. It took a minute for those statistics to kind of catch up. I think we've probably been at this high of a usage rate, not this high, but it's been high pretty significantly for years in my own experience with my own students. So I predominantly teach graduate classes, and so also able to incorporate with them and teach them about communication theory in terms of their artificial intelligence use. So, I am a McLuhanist and follow the precept that all technologies operate as extensions of man. So, what that means is that all technologies, what McLuhan contended in his famous book, Understanding Media, which is subtitled Extensions of Man, way back in 1964, was that throughout time, um, different technologies have been used to extend human capabilities. And so some of them are really easy to see. The hammer extends the arm, the car extends the capability of the foot, and go further back than that. The wheel, back when the invention of the wheel extended the capability of the foot. Telescopes extend the capability of the eyes. There's all different types of technologies throughout millennia that have extended the capability and capacities of mankind. So this is what we're dealing with now. It's the natural progression of McLuhan's contentions. So if we follow McLuhan's logic, we also have to consider that AI itself is a cognitive extension, and it can operate as an extension of our human brain, of our memory, our ability to synthesize, our imagination, so on and so forth. And so usually people are kind of get a little nervous, nervous about these things, right? They're like, oh no, AI will never be able to replace the human brain. And that is in no way what I'm saying whatsoever. And that's not what I teach my students either. But we have to accept that, I guess. So it's kind of like the process of grief. Like the first thing is to accept that this is the way things are. So we kind of have to accept. So first of all, that different technologies have kind of already been doing these things for us anyways. So even the ability to write, McLuhan contended, extended our memory, right? Because things could be written down. So before things were written down, we had no capacity to remember those things. Now we see our memory being extended through things like the time hop that pops up on your phone or memories that pop up on your social media. Those are all those are technological and actually AI powered and algorithmically powered um, systems and technologies that have served to extend your memory and allow you to remember more. So these things are already happening all around us, and it's really with the advent of generative AI that people kind of like start to have a really big issue. So the other day in the office, I'm also a faculty advisor to a student newspaper. So the other day in the office, we got into a kind of a little bit of an argument with my graduate student who she's in a lot of so all of my graduate courses pretty much that I teach AI emphasis courses. So that means I take the topic and I approach it from an AI perspective, or we really heavily incorporate AI into the entire class. The whole class is completed using AI, whatever. And so she was talking about, so she has started using AI to really intensively do graphic design. And she already had a pretty extensive, graphic design ability. But now that she started using AI, her capacities and capabilities have gone from like down here to like there is no limit. And that's what she says, right? She's like, I can do anything now. And so she got into an argument with one of our art students about how AI art will never be the same thing as human generated art. And so they got into the argument about the student and the digital pencil, and how the digital pencil is essentially, an interplay between human creativity and sorry, so it's an interplay between human creativity and machines, right? Because so you have the digital pencil, the art student, she draws with the digital pencil on her iPad and generates what she sees in her conceptual mind onto the screen. Also, so on top of that, we have AI, which can then extend the conceptual mind. And so you're not using your hand to physically, control the digital pen that translates it onto the screen. Instead, you're actually literally explaining it through AI prompting. So, but either way, it's extending this range of our conceptual mind. It's taking what we see in our conceptual mind and it's putting it on a digital screen. And so we tend to accept the digital pencil, but people react much more strongly when it deals with things specifically in creative fields with AI art. But both are actually things that both, using that digital pencil and then also being able to really explainly, clearly get, prompt artificial intelligence and get what you want out of it is also a really high level skill, and also to be able to understand how to manipulate then the art that you have created in artificial intelligence with artificial intelligence with other tools is also another important skill. And so this has actually been studied in art classrooms and really more in like art 101 type classrooms. And I studied, they had a group of students that they were like teaching the Art 101 concepts, and they were having them do it in a really traditional way. Like they would teach drawing techniques and they'd have them actually draw, something like that. Then they had an AI emphasis class where essentially they would teach whatever this technique was, but then they would teach them how to do it from an artificial intelligence perspective. And the like amount that the students that were in the AI class were able to accomplish by the end of the semester versus the traditional class, it was like night and day. And so, but both of them definitely still really demonstrated a high range of cognitive skill and a higher range in that specific case. The students who used artificial intelligence actually were able to get into the higher order thinking skills on Bloom's taxonomy, and the lower level students who were still trying to learn these technical, like physically how you draw things, even though they never really were going to maybe draw themselves, but they were learning them so they could learn the concepts themselves. The students who were in the artificial intelligence class kind of like they shot up that pyramid a lot faster because there's much less time that they necessarily have to spend at the lower order thinking skills because the artificial intelligence is kind of some of the things like things that you need to remember, the AI, kind of like the previous presentation, what word is it that I'm supposed to use to describe this? The AI will remember that for you. So it allows you to learn more quickly. So the subversive question. So along with McLuhan, I also am a follower of Postman. Although, and people who follow communication theory may think that those two don't necessarily belong together, but they most certainly do. And Postman, he is a comm theorist, but he is first and foremost a teacher. And my actually favorite book by him is Teaching as a Subversive Activity from way back in 1969. And he basically argued that the school system in the United States was completely failing students then to prepare students for modern world, and that school operates as a rearview mirror. It doesn't prepare students for the future, and that students have to be subversive, and they have to equip students with built-in shockproof crap detectors. And what does that mean in the age of AI? What does it mean in the age of AI to teach subversively, to be able to embody students with these things that they really, really need to be able to basically survive in the AI era, which is extremely difficult, right? Because they are on the end of a fire hose of AI generated content continuously. This is aside from their own work where they are using AI and they are interacting with AI, like the content that they interact with as normal media. They're continually, and all of us, we are continually inundated by artificial intelligence. They also need to be able to do the crap detecting for interacting with artificial intelligence themselves. So what do I mean by crap detecting? This is something that Postman stole from Ernest Hemingway, who said in order to be a great writer, you have to have a built-in shockproof crap detector. And so what this essential survival skill is the ability to distinguish sense from nonsense. And as one of my PhD advisors likes to call it, your rhetorical sight or your rhetorical vision. So basically, to be able to see the truth of a situation or see the truth of an argument whenever is being presented to you, or to be able to see the rhetorical appeals that are being used or that are working upon you in any given time, anytime you have any media working upon you. And that can be and that's a much higher level skill for students to be able to develop. That's why, I teach grad school, because it can be really hard to get the undergrads to get that really good crap detector to be able to fully understand how they're being, operated upon rhetorically throughout life. But graduate students, they really can do it. But you have to explicitly teach them about this and teach them about rhetorical vision. And that could be a whole other presentation. But the top academic use cases for AI. So number one is brainstorming ideas. That's the biggie, along with drafting outlines, and then generating drafts and rewriting and paraphrasing. So what people usually, the misconception with AI is that students are just like having AI write all of their papers for them, all of their discussion board posts for them. They're just wholesale copying and pasting the whole way. That's actually, according to research, not completely like what they are doing. There is obviously some of that happening. So to say that that's not happening would be delusional. Just like to think that students aren't using AI would be delusional. But most of them are actually using it in a more creative and constructive way. And they're using it in a similar way that hopefully you all, as artificial intelligence users yourselves, in a similar critical way that you use artificial intelligence. So to create ideas to help automate and speed up little tasks that you don't want to have to spend a lot of time on, like maybe alphabetizing something or something like that. So these basic rote tasks that, students, especially with my grad students, that's usually they are using artificial intelligence usually for more like what I would consider rote tasks. And then they also are using it as well, really more for like brainstorming, and then potentially for things like data analysis and things like that, finding trends in data, pointing out trends in data, and then obviously going back and, trust but verify kind of thing. But so mainly, largely they're really using it to brainstorm, and it's more used as a creative, is more of a creative tool in the minds of students. They don't automatically think of AI as cheating, and really the ones who automatically think of AI as cheating, they're the ones who've been taught that. Most of them approach it from a much more like organic way because they've grown up with AI. So they don't see it that way. Okay, so things to accept and remember and embrace. It's more than a shortcut, it's a springboard. So specifically for graduate work, Carnegie Mellon found that it reduced graduate students' writing time by 65% and improved their average grade from a B plus to an A. And people, writing professors out there, are probably like, oh no, that's terrible. We don't want to allow people to write more quickly and efficiently. Why would we ever want students to do that? And although that's what we want ourselves as writers, and that's what we ourselves probably use artificial intelligence for, is to speed ourselves up. And so, you know, it's all, even in graduate students, it's one, it's a whopping number, and then two, this study particularly found that that the use of artificial intelligence was particularly helpful for ELL learners. And so at the that becomes very obvious how the level of differentiation that you can get out of AI would be beneficial to ELL students. Okay, so what will we do with this new power? So, as I frequently tell my colleagues, is that if AI can do your assignments, then the assignment is bad. Okay, don't get mad at the student for using AI to complete your assignment. You created an assignment that they could beat with AI. And I'm like, if you create an assignment that they can beat with AI, like they are going to do it. They'll take it as a challenge, right? So the whole idea is that you have to design around this. So use the time and the power AI provides to really push students into higher order thinking, deeper analysis, all of those things that we always want. So we don't want to think of like AI as an endpoint for assignments. We also don't want to think of it as cheating or plagiarism. It needs to be a starting point for deeper inquiry. And it's really a prompt for us to evolve as educators. So most people, in my experience, who are super anti-AI, there are some people who are in creative fields that I understand have very, serious oppositions, but usually the academics I find that are wholesale opposed to it, a lot of them don't want to have to learn about the updates. That's not everyone. Some people, again, have some serious ethical concerns that are well founded. But a lot of people, I think it's fear of change. So again, I do this in my COM 623 class, and it's mandatory for them to use AI throughout the class. And the whole course is built around this central inquiry of what can AI do and what can't AI do. And throughout the whole class, they work with a real life client and they create a marketing plan for that client. And then within that plan, they specifically have to address one, how they have used AI to create that plan, but also how the client can then use AI and leverage AI to actually complete the goals and objectives of the plan. So it's a multi-layered way that they use it. And the results have been excellent as far as student responses to the class. They leave this class feeling like they can do anything. Another cool thing that we do in there is that the classes are in groups, or the students are in groups. And so they are able to see how each other use AI and learn from each other. And there's a lot of interesting psychological things to, with how the students talk to the AI, treat the AI, the attitudes they use, the tones they use. So there's also a lot of, interesting things that they can learn from that. And they can engage in that group practice of crap detection. So once they realize, as a group especially, like, oh, the AI lied to us, and the first person didn't catch it, and the second person didn't catch it, but the third one did, it really makes it sink in. So the main thing is we want to move from a product to a process partnership. And so instead of having an old assignment that would be a 5-page paper on Hamlet, a new assignment would be to use AI to generate 3 different interpretations of Hamlet's motivations, potentially arguing with the AI about what Hamlet's motivations would be. With Hamlet, I used to be an English teacher. There's so many ways you could go. In my classes now, create a marketing plan for a product. Instead of doing that, this is what we do. Use AI to create a baseline of the plan, critique it, refine it, add so many creative elements that AI couldn't conceive of, that AI couldn't do. You have to be the human in the loop and have the human touch. So ultimately, our role is more important than ever, and AI hasn't made us obsolete. It has made it to where we are, as I always tell my colleagues, it's like sex ed. If you don't teach them about it, like, they're still going to learn themselves, and you'll just be raising your grandbabies. So, we don't want to do that. We want to actually teach them how to use it properly. So I encourage all of you to embrace it. And the number one way to do that is to understand especially the flaws and biases, and this is also for students. The number one way to do that is to actually is actually through adopting the technology yourself and becoming a really heavy AI user yourself. That is really the only way that you, as a user and learner yourself, will be able to really truly even begin to comprehend everything that these new technologies can do, and that's the only way that your skill set will stay up to date. And let me skip back, so we're a little over on time. But lastly, start with one assignment, just one assignment, design it as AI as a partner, engage and encourage students to work alongside and learn alongside AI. Talk to your students about what they're using AI for. Chances are they're using it for a ton and they're really advanced and you just don't know. And then lastly, find a partner, talk to somebody in your department, see what, hopefully there's at least one person in your department like me that's really super pro AI that has all kinds of ideas. But thank you everyone. Sorry I was slightly over on time.